Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tech Marketing Trends, the podcast where we delve into the complexities of technology, sales, marketing, and the innovations driving our industry forward. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Justin Michael, a renowned sales expert and the mastermind behind the revolutionary Justin Michael method, JMM. Justin has a remarkable story of transforming his life career by harnessing the power of the law of attraction, as detailed in his latest book, Attraction Selling: Unleashing the Law of Attraction to Multiply Sales Results with Music, Sleep, and the JMM Method 3.0. And with a track record of driving millions in pipeline for startups and coaching and thousands of executives to achieve extraordinary results, Justin is here to share his insights and the practical tools that can help anyone become a top performer in sales. So whether you're a seasoned professional just starting out, Justin's unique approach promises to unlock new levels of success. So with that short introduction, great to have you with us, Justin.
I'm glad to be here and excited to talk with you today. Thank you for that humbling introduction.
Wonderful. Justin, could you just start by sharing a bit about your journey and how you discovered this law of attraction that you also have, built your books a lot around?
It's really interesting, right? So I'm 44, but back when I was 26 in 2006, I went to an impromptu charity event, and I had a friend who was Jackson Brown's accountant, CPA, if you will, and his daughter had a showcase for some music she was playing, and I gave her, a concert venue and helped promote her. And so I guess he was very grateful for this, and he sets me up to sit next to Jack Canfield from Chicken Soup for the Soul from The Secret, right? We all know Jack, who wrote the Success Principles. So I sit down and Jack says, um, he goes, I'm Jack Canfield. And I was like, you wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. It's like my 10th grade English teacher made me read that. I had no idea that it was this big speaker and everything. So he gave me all his books and tapes. It was part of this giveaway thing. And he gave me this little black DVD case and he said, hey, this is the secret. It hasn't been released. So 6 weeks later, I run into Rhonda Byrne. I met Rhonda Byrne, who wrote the thing. She was in town. She knew Jack. I got to visit with her, and it was really profound because I'd never seen any of this stuff. So, the original book was on Wallace Wattles' The Science Getting Rich, and I, dug into that, and that was interesting. I read that about 1,000 times. And what happened is I ended up getting to Silicon Valley when I was 30, 31 after 10 years selling in incubators. And I kept getting rejected because I didn't have a college degree. So I tried to get to Salesforce and LinkedIn and all these companies. Well, I used this process of visualization to music because I'd been in music. And I tuned the music to these special frequencies that were solfeggio, right? So 432 hertz, 528 hertz. And I do the visualizations to the music. It helped me to kind of meditate and tap into my subconscious mind. About 2 to 3 months living in Palo Alto, I got a job offer for the same amount of money as LA, and I almost gave up. And then I refused to take it. I ripped up the offer. It was FedEx to me. My little brother said, just take it. You have no experience. It's the best you're going to do, right? Because working in these little companies. And about, I don't know, a week later, through some investors, I got my first, six-figure deal as a salesperson, which was massive in no degree. So it really worked for me. Then fast forward, I built my own methodology, the Justin Michael method, going in my mid 30s. I ended up working for Salesforce. I worked for LinkedIn, 13 startups, became a top VP of SaaS sales, made some of the top income you can make in SaaS, traveled all over the world. And when I turned 40, I launched a consultancy and I started working with lots of teams, hundreds of teams. And, it's been like 1,000 people one-to-one. And I find the biggest determinant of success is mindset, inner psychology, and self-image. 95 to 98% of success in this life, what happens outwardly on the screen of reality, is our perception of ourselves. So books like Psycho-Cybernetics and As a Man Thinketh and right Eckhart Tolle and Power of Awareness by Neville. I've dug into all of this and I've decided to just put it in a book and merge it with sales. And it's never been done. There's actually one book on Amazon somewhere, but it's a small thing that no one really followed it, right? So that's been the impetus of this project, and it's been a hell of a run.
Wow, super interesting. And what a journey that drove so much of your success as well. And you have also now written three books about the Justin Michael method, JMM, and you're at now the third version. So what inspired you to create it? And can you talk a little bit about your method and how it also have evolved over those three
Yeah.
books?
So I started out as the case study in a book called Combo Prospecting with Tony Hughes down in Australia, who mentored me from 10 years since I got to Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And that was a book about block and tackle and phone. We decided to do a book together and got a deal in HarperCollins called Tech Powered Sales. It was the first book ever published on a major label to have full sequences and cadences, right? Like the touch patterns of what you'll write when you send 27 emails. And then we interviewed tons of people. We had 400 different tech stack players in there. Now, that book was a big hit, and we did a lot of consulting and coaching off the back of that. But what people always told us is we can't afford the RevOps. We can't pay all the money on these stacks. So I said, wait a minute. I've been selling for 20 years. What are the strategies for Sales Navigator and cold calling and cold emailing and prospecting, visual and video and sending things in the mail and homing pigeons and stunts and neighborhood techniques. So I just said, I'm going to write down everything I ever did to be successful in these books, make a practical manual like Anarchist Cookbook for Good. And I ended up with 96,000 words, and I couldn't get any publishers to pick it up, only because it was just such an opus. It's just like my whole life story and all the techniques, and I had hundreds of coaching sessions, and I just broke all the rules in that thing. And I found this publisher named Jeremy Jones out of Arizona, and he had 200 bestsellers. I thought, this is great. So he took on the project, and he did it fast, and we split the books up into increments, 45,000 words each. And that makes it really digestible. You can sit down and read Justin Michael 1.0, Sales Superpowers, in, 2.5, 3 hours.
Mm,
So, and it's really a manual. There's tons of examples of what to do. Um, so it's a trilogy now, right? And you could read it with a third book first to get your mind right and then go back into tactics, or you can read it sequentially.
mhm,
And it's really for me a testament to 20 years of experience. Like, I want to do for the top of the funnel and for opening what David Sandler did for progression and closing. So when I ran into Mike Bosworth and David Sandler's material and all the greats like Aaron Ross, I kind of
mm,
thought, I'm going to be the next one of those. And I'm finding a real gap up here. There's great stuff up here like Grant
mm,
Cardone and Jordan Belfort, Mike Weinberg, Jeb Blunt. These are fantastic. I wanted to bring a level of neuroscience, rigor, relationship dynamics, NLP, and then I wanted to just blow the lid out and say, what's happening spiritually and metaphysically with quantum mechanics, and what is the role of your thoughts and your mind and your body on the success in any field? So that's it in a nutshell. Long answer.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. I love it. And yeah, I can just say I had Tony Hughes on for just a few weeks ago talking about yeah, uh his thing as well. So awesome to hear. He's a great guy as well. So great book there.
Thank you.
And yeah, I was diving into that a little bit. It's so interesting since you actually merge these different sciences or areas where sales is very logical, very one, two, three kind of tactics, as you said. Can you explain a little bit about the importance of music and sleep in your method that you bring up, even in the title of the third book now? So how do
Yeah.
those contribute to sales success, basically?
Well, there's a book by Neville Goddard called The Power of Awareness, and he talks about the pruning shears of revision. And every night before you go to sleep, what happens to the brain is as you relax and come off the caffeinated state, you go from beta, which is the focused caffeinated state, to alpha into theta and then into delta. So I started studying that and started to find that um, Salvador Dali slept on a metal plate with a key in his hand, so he would fall into alpha or theta waves. And if you look at what he painted, it's quite incredible. So he's tapping that creative subconscious.
Mm,
And I think it might have been Edison that would sleep with a metal ball when he napped for the same reason I saw somewhere. So, and then Quentin Tarantino would write scripts floating in his pool, and Edison would fish without bait. So, and some inventors go into a dark room or a basement to just like get focused. So, the element of sleep is actually reprogramming your subconscious mind before sleep by
mm,
thinking about the future state, what you want to see happen in your life as if it's already occurred. And this could be auto-suggestion of saying affirmations. Well, there's another way to take your brain out of this beta focused state, and that's using binaural beats or solfeggio, these sacred frequencies and sacred geometry. If you play these frequencies on water, the water moves into these perfect patterns, or you put gold on water or sand on a plate. You can Google this on YouTube. So these sounds can like reshape your DNA and heal you. And I had client that had brain injury, and this was helping him focus. And he was having like ADHD type phenomena, and he was able to find frequencies that helped him to relax and study and focus. So that's really powerful. The impact of what you do when you wake up and the way that you get into meditation. I couldn't meditate. My brain was moving so fast. And I also now realize I had a lot of coffee. So David Goggins amazingly is off of caffeine. So I tried getting off caffeine for the research of this book and just did experiments with how quickly could I get into like a state between waking and sleep, between pure consciousness and subconscious,
Mm.
because while you're awake, you can't really change the paradigm. Right? I'm quoting Bob Proctor here. Like in our waking state, we control 5%. So we might try to think positive, but those deep down subconscious patterns, it's very hard to change. And we
Mm.
have to change those patterns in order to break through our limiting beliefs and the barriers. And salespeople, like it's a very tough job. They're trying to hit a number and hit a revenue target and get a certain income. They all make half the money they need to make. And my goal in working with people is to shift them at their core of who they're being, their self-identity. Because we don't attract what we want and desire, we attract what we are. The two biggest things about this book that make it totally radical in the canon of law of attraction studies, and some mention is one, the word action is in attraction because we're sellers, it's a sport. So we can't just sit around looking at Ferraris all day or dreaming of, going to Monaco or Mars. We have to go
Mm.
take action. And number two, is the altruism, is the giving. And it's like the go-giver, right? Service equals wealth, service equals success in sales. Like Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. And so I think a lot of the previous stuff, it's all about the visualization and the dream board and then low effort and expecting it to arrive. That
Mm.
said, you got to have tremendous faith. And the hows are the domain of the universe. So like speed, it's as easy to attract $5 as $5 million, but you have to have the identity to be able to have faith to live into that, to tap into that universe, if you will.
Mm. Wow, interesting. You shared a little bit the insights there of a few persons, but from a sales or success perspective, do you have any examples or stories from clients who have applied the JMM principles and have seen their,
I
sales
mean,
increase?
it's amazing. I mean, I have this client, Luke, that I taught him the mechanics and tactical techniques, but he started doing the mindset techniques. He goes from doing 5K a month on the side of an agency, builds his own agency, 20K a month, 50K a month. He's on $500,000 now in like, I don't know, a year and a half. And he just keeps landing bigger and bigger clients. And he's just a champion. He just sees that for himself. He's only 29. I share that case study in the book. I've seen people just have relief from suffering, clarity about what they want to do in their lives. I have a close friend who's just been doing I put Ho'oponopono in the book too, the Hawaiian mysticism, which is I love you, thank you, sorry, please forgive me, which is another amazing book called Zero Limits. Basically, he's been doing all these techniques and processes, and he keeps getting promotions in his company. They've taken him from like a frontline SDR to the SDR manager to the RevOps leader to like now he's replaced a very senior executive in that company in like 6 months' time, right? So it's really interesting what'll happen if you
Wow.
believe and hold the vision for yourself in the now and be grateful for it. Gratitude is the most powerful element.
Mm. Okay, so if you want to change that, is it daily affirmations that is the most powerful tool, or do you recommend it in combination with something else? Or should we just
Personally,
read the book?
definitely read the book, and I put the exercise in the first chapter because people read the first two, and there's kind of a lot of form and ceremony around intros and life story and the setups. And that was the Wim Hof book about ice bathing. He has the drills right up front. So I have all the drills in the first chapter for all of you that
Mm.
are like, where's the meat of this book? Here's a big thing. You're not your thoughts, you're not your mind, you're not your body, you're the consciousness behind them. You have
Mm.
70,000 thoughts a day. I think you make like 35,000 decisions. 75,000 thoughts a day, 90% are negative, 80% are repetitive, even if you're Michael Jordan. So
Mm.
when you have a thought and you think, I'm not worthy, you have to look at the thought and say, wait, I am worthy. I'm
Mm.
actually very worthy, right? So the first thing is to get rid of that head trash, as Sandler used to call it, right? And Byron Katie has this process called the work. I've seen it with Sid Banks, who was a Scottish welder, who was kind of enlightened. I've seen this come out of a lot of experience. First, you have to understand your thoughts aren't true. They're a
Mm.
program or a pattern from before the age of 7. So I would say get psychotherapy. It helped me. It's great. It's not what I do. I try to coach and encourage people. But first, understand you're not your thoughts. And you're not your mind. You're not your body, and then starts to be aware of them, start flipping each one of them, and then start getting powerful. Now, my mind is clear through the day, And I have a mantra of like, I am serving my clients. I am, earning this amount. I'm living in this way. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm wise. Like all this stuff. And then pumping myself up within. It's not conceit. It's not narcissism. It's just self-love. And really, the law of
Mm,
attraction is a law of love. It's the most powerful law in the universe. So you can journal, you can do affirmations, you can listen to music, you can visualize, um, right? And also just being in a beautiful state, that whole Tony Robbins idea, like sometimes I listen to just different music because I love it and it pumps me up and I
mm,
feel great. If you're doing what you love and you're grateful in the moment, more of that will come to you. It's really this self-abnegation, this, I always think of that scene, it's kind of brutal in the Da Vinci Code where he's sitting there and he's like lashing himself. We all do this inside. We beat
mm,
ourselves up because we've had hard mentors in sales, like tough people like Drumline or like the military. It's like, hey, you can't do it. It's kind of like Goggins is hard. He's like, get hard. He's like tough, right?
mm,
Goggins is actually a pretty loving guy if you listen to all his stuff, right? But you have to be gentle internally with
mm,
yourself, build yourself up and create a container and a self-image that's going to
mm,
reflect the life you want to lead. If your internal self-talk is brutality and abuse, you're going to have a chaotic, crazy life appearing
mm.
and manifesting for you. So sort that out first. There's a ton of drills in the book to help you do it. You'll break through.
Wonderful. That's great. Love that. If we move on there a little bit, you have worked with high profile companies, as you said, with Salesforce, LinkedIn, and the top of the top-notch companies in SaaS and so forth, Silicon Valley. How does your methods work or integrate with modern tech-based sales companies like those?
Yeah, so I've had a great run certifying reps at HubSpot. I have worked with reps from, Salesforce and
Hmm.
Clary and Gong and some and great companies. I try to work within the existing tech stack they have. I have this concept of TQ, which is technology quotient. And so like if you have the patience to learn clay.com and learn how to program artificial intelligence personalization, you'll sit through and figure out, do it. If you don't have the patience, get a platform like copy.ai or Autobound or Reggie or something that's going to write the sequences for you.
Hmm.
Remember, if you rely on ChatGPT, I have this model called heuristics. It's a set of guardrails or boundaries or shortcuts. It's a meta framework over linguistics to make sure it doesn't sound vanilla. All this ChatGPT is pumping out the same. Hope you're
Mm,
doing well. Notice there's growth here. Saw you love Chinese food, so do I. So you have to think of personalization as not all sounding the same, not being
mm,
homogenized. The methods I work with, I mean, I know all the methods from, Sandler, Challenger, Solution. Like I know
mm,
them all. I use my own methods. If I go into a company that's using one method or another, I just try to strengthen it and
mm,
be a steel alloy to support what they're already doing. I
mm,
really do want to dig into every individual's mindset and their
mm,
goal setting. And like John Assaraf talks about, not just the goals, but the strategies, tactics, and processes to support the goals. Because my whole thing is not just having this overwhelming optimism and positive thinking. I call it paranoia. The universe
mm.
is plotting to do me good. I say this so many times in my books. Gestures control.
Mm,
Perfect. Right. But you have to create a plan and a process. Like, it's like brushing your teeth. Like every day you have got to prospect, like always be
mm,
prospecting. And you've got to love prospecting. And it's
mm,
just talking to good humans and enjoying it and being curious. Right. So
mm.
yeah, I could go on and on, but it slots
Yeah.
in pretty well.
Wow. Love that. And if we move into that area a bit, you're an outbound expert. At top of the funnel have been your thing, so to say, in combination, as we talked about before. If it's a company today, there's been, I would say the economy is a little bit in the balance now, is it going good or bad? And a lot of companies are struggling. So if there's someone listening to this, and want to accelerate their outbound lead gen processes, so what's your, top advice? What should they focus on to get going?
Yeah, I always watch companies hiring up fleets of sellers, but the truth is maybe hold one or two headcount back and invest in the tech stack. And a lot of you are like, we're just consolidating, going with one vendor. The
Mm,
list is your strategy, and I've heard that referred to by Joey Gilkey and different people. But essentially, I'll go in and the reps have one data vendor. I won't mention it, but 20 to 30% of the data is bad. So they make 10 phone calls and three are bad. Rather than hire another person and have all that bad data, get clean data, have a virtual assistant team pre-call and human verify the data, get multiple data sources, get working emails and phone numbers, get intent data, right? There's a company called Modigi, which has a cool guarantee where you can check some of the data and audit it. That's a real cool product. But yeah, it's like making investments of the quality of life and the tech stacks and then sales training and tech stack training. I know that sounds like a lot, but if you hire less people and you invest more in the training and you invest more in the tech stacks, that's going to give you your edge. The big thing now is phone, but if you have low contact rates, you're really just leaving a lot of voicemails. And that's my
Mm.
combo prospecting technique. So you need to invest in phone, but enable folks with working phone numbers and power dialers or parallel assisted dialers that can dial 4 to 10 times at a time. The goal is complete. I talked to reps say last week, how many humans to talk to? Five, under five. How many DMs do you get into? Under five. Double that number. Try to get 5 completes a day. Human to human conversation, either direct message, highly engaged, or voice to voice. That's powerful, right? And that's why network events are back in-person events and virtual events, which I do a lot of too, are a quality lead source because you're harnessing, you're galvanizing audiences around context and a theme, not just a direct frontal assault type of sales process.
Mm. Wonderful. And where do you see, you mentioned Clay and a few other systems here. Where do you see AI come into play, and any recommendations on where it's most worthwhile to invest in that area now for the coming maybe 12 months or so?
For me, I just use Grammarly Go, which has like AI built in. So I'm such a prolific writer. I'll write something and I'll like shorten it, make it persuasive, make it empathetic, and I'll use different modalities just to kind of get me out of the white space. But I typically still write all my own stuff. I was sending emails with AI every time and saying sent by AI, and I got weird responses out of that, but I like the transparency. Um, Clay.com is a really cool tool. It integrates all sorts of data sources. There's new sequencers out there like Smartlead and Instantly. There's lookalike platforms like Ocean.io. I was just on a call with LoanScale, like this Buyer Watch or User Gems platforms that can find trigger events in your
Hmm.
CRM. That's powerful. Ecosystem-led growth is powerful. If you can have affiliate co-selling and figure out which accounts you're both working, all that stuff is innovative. That's all in tech-powered sales. Um, yeah, so becoming a student of tech stacks, I had a client named Eric Nowoslawski. He just did some seminars with Hormozy himself. So be hip to that. Watch YouTube channels, teach yourself. It's not that hard. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And if anything, just get my codex guides and learn those because that's how you're going to stick out. All I do is analyze all the competitors and see how they talk and how they write and how they think and just do the opposite.
That's good.
I
Yeah,
got that from Earl Nightingale, actually, but I didn't really know it. But he said if you go into an industry and you do the exact opposite of the majority of people, the lemmings going this way, you're going to stand out, right? So when I
yeah.
first came on the scene, I photoshopped a robot on my face, a Terminator, and this very famous speaker said, "You can't Photoshop the Terminator on your face. It's a career-limiting move." And I did it anyway, and I sucked the oxygen out of the industry. Everybody read the book, it's pretty cool.
Wonderful. Love that. And so, yeah, go the opposite direction. That's a good tip. And yeah, is there anything, if you're running a sales team or SDR team or things like that, what should they not do? Or any potholes we should avoid going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to focus on smart activities. It's really important to invest in the sequence writing and invest in the kind of call openers and scripts and templates that you're going to use.
Mm,
Be on the lookout for quality tech stacks, right? I think it's okay if it feels slightly like you're micromanaging right now because being so hands off and letting everybody just do whatever they want, there needs to be, I think, more discipline now around, like I work with a great team. They're doing 100 calls a day. I was amazed to see that because I think a couple of years ago, if you did 50 calls a day, that's an HR problem now. Like, why is HR on the calls, right? But, there's efficient ways to do that. Henry Ford said, if I had asked the customer what they wanted, they would have said faster horses,
mm,
right? So if you're dialing a phone one at a time or you're emailing one at a time, sure, for strategic high level, C-level selling, sure. But you need automation and you need understanding the automation, thoughtful where the personalization is not upbraiding or upsetting your customers or burning out your TAM. Yeah, so the tech-powered manager, right, who has
mm,
technology quotient in the 101s, like let's look at your replies. In the 101s, let's write sequences together. In the 101s, let's figure out how to automate this together, right?
mm,
Being a sales manager now is not just a spreadsheet jockey having the one-to-ones. You got to be invested down to the fine grain,
mm,
sharpen the sword, and make sure the techniques and tactics are executed correctly.
hmm. Yeah. That's interesting. That's a very good observation. Hands-on management, because you need to be there and get everybody on the bandwagon, and
Especially
yeah.
in a remote world, but you can share a screen,
Mm,
and you can. Another thing is like list building and targeting, this whole account-based sales development and really having a list of dream accounts. It's becoming a big hit again. The Chet Holmes Dream 100 is coming back because, I think Steve Chandler said losers spray and winners focus. That's what he
mm,
said. So like
yeah.
if you have 200 accounts, 80/20, you have 40 accounts. If you have 100 accounts, 80/20, you have 20 accounts. So pick
Mm,
your top tier one accounts, stack rank tier one, two, three, overemphasize, go hard in these certain accounts. Another thing I
mm,
always do is I go for the no. If you give me an account, everybody knows my name in that account. They're like, oh, I did 4 voicemails. Call 50 times. Call until somebody responds. Never had a restraining order. Right? I have finesse and decorum of how I go in there, but I create a list of who I'm going to contact, and then I get to the target by any means necessary, by any
yeah.
channel, but professionally and with creativity and alacrity. And it's exciting. Like, oh, great, I got to know. So I could tell my CRO, account one's Q4, account two is Q2, account three, competitor A, account four, just switch jobs. And I have intel. I call up and down the whole org chart. I send
Mm,
tons of emails in. It's just there's a assertiveness, a honey badger nature in my processes. There's a consistency and staccato to it that's kind of like a swarm of bees. And that's, I think, really rare because if you're going to get in their face, but it's done with craft and artistry, they kind of appreciate it. It's refreshing in a way. The biggest
yeah.
response people get to my techniques are either sorry, I was traveling, or hey, can I hire you? They try to hire the rep using the JMM.
Wonderful. I see we're running out of time here. Justin, this is so interesting. And what do you think? What people who want to know more about your books, your content, or your services and things like that, where can we send them, Justin?
Yeah, so look me up on LinkedIn, just Justin Michael, or you can look me up on Amazon. And yeah, if you buy 5 of my books, I'm down to give you a complimentary one-to-one coaching session. And it's the value of like $1,000. So that's kind of a cool thing. So people have been buying them up and casting them in the wind. Just because this new book is such a spiritual, lovely thing to give to people, it's going to change a lot of lives. It's going to turn around the mental health of a lot of people. So I'm trying to just really get it out there.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best now with everything you do. And yeah, I learned a lot. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Great to be on the show.